cord of compassion because there's just not enough of it in the world right now. So that's an example of how this show moves and why I was so drawn to it, because it really does take you outside of just the story. And it puts you in the place of feeling and understanding that these were human beings that lost their lives, that will never come back, their children left behind. We went to Chicago. Chantre Puff was what he was affectionately called, his murder. We discussed young greatness, someone that I have a lot of people in common with. He and I didn't know each other, but Reese and different friends of his are friends of mine as well. And when we were actually filming his, something hit really, really, really hard. And they were talking about rappers that had been slain in New Orleans. And I have a really thick history there in New Orleans and with the people of New Orleans. And I looked up and I remember I was in the middle of speaking and they showed a Daryl, and I it's almost like time stopped for me. Soulja Slim, time just really stopped for me. It just completely halted because I remember what that was like. That was one of Corey's best friends, and it was hard for all of us for him to be killed in the manner that he was. And what you feel and go through after that is not often talked about, but on Infamy, it definitely is. But I like that it gets to the heart of the person that's watching, even me as the host.
Yeah, I really, really love that. And that makes me so excited to, you sound like a great filmmaker also. Yeah, like you're about to start making like some really heartfelt documentaries, just the way you were selling that. But one thing I do really appreciate that you touched on earlier was telling the truth in these, because I'm sure also as someone who's high profile, and I see also in working in media, people just say things and it's like, did you fact check that? Like, is that even, where did you even get that from? You know, which is kind of crazy to me.
Journalism is like a lost art now. It's really sad because people don't realize that the things that they're reading aren't true. And I had a girlfriend of mine, I was telling someone earlier, she called me and said, I want you to hear this. And it was 25 minutes of a YouTube about me and my life or love life. And the only thing that was said that was true was my name. That was the only information that was correct.
Insane.
Nothing else that they said was correct. So I wasn't offended by it. I actually laughed quite a bit. And then I realized so many that listened to it thought that it was filled with all this factual, salacious information. And I'm thinking to myself, this has no truth.
Yeah.
So Mo Talk is the couch of truth. It is the bit of truth that people will be comfortable, I feel, with having, also with me, because it takes a long time to build your reputation and that long to destroy it. So for me, having built a reputation that allows people to trust and know that when I say, we will not edit what you said, we will not trick you into talking about things, I'm going to tell you exactly what it is and we're going to have a real conversation. I think it will be refreshing for the artists and entertainers, as well as for the viewers at home, because they really aren't aware how much of this stuff has absolutely no truth that they hear and read. And I do respect the places that still believe in the truth. When I see someone say, you know what, I reported this and it wasn't truth, if you say that just as loud as you told the lie, I respect you.
Exactly.
I respect you.
And I 100% agree, because the amount of things that I would see as basic journalistic practices that I might have learned years ago. And it's like, you can't just say things without having a source or not double checking things. And
there's no repercussions because we're considered public domain.
Yeah. And like, you can't just say things about people. I'm like, that's also kind of illegal, but that's a whole other conversation that people don't get into. But in speaking about, you know, fighting misinformation and facts, one thing that I really loved was earlier this year, you had a conversation with Dr. Fauci about COVID and everything, kind of ahead of the launch of MoTalk. And I wanted to hear a little more about that because, one, I really appreciated you having that conversation because it means a lot coming from you, especially within our community, for people to get the facts about COVID, but also just to have that conversation at all. So can you just talk a little bit more about that and how that came about and how it relates to MoTalk as well?
Absolutely. So that was almost like a bit of information. I guess you say that I wanted to share because a lot of misconceptions about COVID, we had some great questions on the show. And before Dr. Fauci actually sat down to speak to me that day, I was getting question after question just when I kind of opened the forum up, right? And you had things like someone asked, if you have sickle cell, should you get vaccinated and why? Or you had some people saying, is the vaccination killing people? You had people, he gave enough information that you could make a decision for yourself and your family. And that's what I wanted. I don't like to be the voice that persuades people one way or the other. People ask me very openly, well, are you vaccinated? I'm not, but my dad is. He was not sick. He's had no lasting effects from it. His arm was sore a bit. We're a very open family that's okay with talking about our experiences. But what I wanted Dr. Fauci to do was give people enough information so that they could decide what was best for them. And he did a good job of that. Yeah. And we didn't have our MoTalk set up and everything at that time. But when they said, Monica, listen, he wants to do the interview, he's willing to do it, we jumped at the opportunity because there are so many people that just did not have the information they needed to make it.
100%. And I really like how you said that you don't try to persuade people, but you just give people the information, which I feel like is important because it's like people can just as easily, you could be on either side really, but the most important part is people understanding these are the facts, this is just what it is, and you should be able to draw conclusions for yourself based on this factual information, not just some screenshots that you saw on Instagram that have been reposted several times. So I really liked that. And how does that kind of tie into what you talked about with wanting to do with MoTalk? Because I thought that was a really good, I was like, ooh, now I'm excited for all the episodes because just the first one, I know it wasn't an official first one per se, but just that first conversation that I saw set a really, really good tone for what I would imagine the rest of them are like.
Yeah, I wanted people to know that I'll go out and get the information for you if I can. If it's within my resources, I'm going to get the information for you because our community, a lot of times lack of knowledge is the biggest plight of ours. We're constantly fighting for information about different things. It's just like with me, I recently shared that I had my second surgery after being diagnosed with endometriosis, removing fibroids and cysts and how painful it was. And, I'm very quiet typically when I'm doing something. So once I shared it, I knew that would open the floodgates, but it still allows some people who have been diagnosed, who were afraid, who need the surgery, but were afraid. I could speak to them from experience. Was it easy? Absolutely not. Dr. Siana Najat started teaching me more about it and sharing his books and findings, and I've been sharing it with my followers. I feel like when you have the accessibility to those types of resources, we should share them because I had never heard of it 4 years ago before I was diagnosed. So I'm sure that's the case in a lot of other women's, lives. And they don't even know what it is that is causing them so much pain. So, as I learn and I grow, I continue to share because I do think that's a part of my purpose. It's got to be bigger than singing, because you're not going to sing every second of your life. So what is the greatest part of your legacy? And I hope that mine is truth, honesty, fighting for our people to be as knowledgeable and aware as we possibly can, fighting for us to build as much as we can and break generational curses, create generational wealth. There's so many things that are important, and I will be addressing all of them on MoTalk.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that too. I feel like one theme of yours, just in your life in general, whether it's through music or any project, is always speaking to people, telling your truth and the way it relates to other people and helping others. How do you feel like you've grown over the years just as a person in terms of doing that? Because that is hard to do, and it's a very admirable thing to be able to do. And now you speak so freely about doing it. So what's that journey been like for you?
I've always been a very outspoken person. That's where the album title Miss Thing actually came from. Dallas would be like, oh, here come Miss Thing. See if she liked this one. And he would be playing me record after record. And it started like a joke. But the Miss Thing thing came from, I've always been really self-assured. People are hard on us. You get ridiculed a lot. You get talked about a lot. You're too skinny. You're too tall. Your feet too big. Your hair's too short. Whatever the case may be. But if you know who you are and whose you are, it makes it easier to navigate through this stuff. So I just didn't have the outlets that we have now to share as much back in the day. When we came in, you couldn't Google. There was no Wikipedia. there definitely was no social media.
Exactly.
In 1995, we had to get on the Chitlin circuit just for you to know that we had records out. You didn't get a chance to know as much as you do know about us. So I just use this tool, the tools that we do have now, to share a lot of the stuff I would have loved to have shared back then, especially from about the age of 19 to now. You know, one of the hardest years of my life was 18, but from that birth after the storm.
Yeah.
And then I went on to 24 years old, give birth for the first time. A couple years later for the second time, you know, and having my heart broken and going through a lot, and, you know, being in different cities and experiencing different types of people, learning, teaching myself how to interview and say what I feel without it sounding rude or being disrespectful. There was no silver spoon on this end over here. My family's from Noonan, Georgia, very humble and gracious people that love God, but I'm self-taught in a lot of other areas. So my goal is to always show people, especially the ones that come from places like where I come from, Southside, that you can do anything you put your mind to, and you are capable of anything, and greatness already lives within you. You just have to tap into it. Most times we get in our own way. So that's always been a goal of mine. I've just been using the outlets that all these phenomenal young people of this generation keep creating.
Yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to, just from that talk alone, I'm really looking forward to hearing this show, because now I'm like, yeah. What can you tell us? What can we expect from the episodes that are coming out this summer? And again, I know that you can't spoil everything. This is just me speaking out of excitement now, but, you know, what can we expect, and what kind of topics are you looking to cover? Is it more, you know, serious topics similar to COVID? Is it more musical? Is it kind of a mix?
Combination. I would never make it all serious all the time. That's the easiest way to lose younger people. And even in my age group, or my mom's, or even your great grandparents, they want to still laugh and enjoy and learn and hear about good things as well. Like, one of the things that I'm really proud of is the You Bad segment. You Bad segment is, instead of me doing the topics, all of the negative things that are going on, I'll highlight someone or something or a company or a person that's just bad to the bone, doing what they got to do, whether it's helping other people or creating. You know, I have a lot of girlfriends that are really smart women that have stepped up and created their own wealth. I have, you know, people that are around me that are constantly doing positive things, and I'm going to highlight that. People that I know and people that I don't know. So when you look at Mo Talk, you'll get a diverse feel of subject matters, people. I want to talk to everyone from, I love Michelle Obama. I love Miss Dolly Parton. I know that's two totally different ends of the spectrum, but two women that do a whole lot for their people where they are from. And they're completely respected for obvious reasons, of course. But I also want to sit down and talk to the city girls and let them talk about what it's been like, you know, for Miami's mom to be incarcerated and now come home. I have an organization called Be Human, where I've dealt with and mentored girls whose mothers are incarcerated. So my feelings and what I would be asking her are going to be totally different than what other people would. That's, of course, if any of these people agree to be a part of the show. But that's what I've been taking time doing, just reaching out and talking to them, talking to young girls about what being in love is like, or having your heart broken is like, talking to them about mental health. You look at Naomi right now, we've all been standing in support of her, and her saying that her mental health requires her to step away from the sport. Well, she deserves our support on every level. I would love to speak to her, but, you know, I don't want this show to be any one thing. Mo Talk means Mo is going to talk to a diverse group of people about everything, any and everything. I want to do things, you know, and I got Mo on the go.
Ooh.
Mo on the go.
Ooh, I like the name alone.
Exactly. I may go to Vegas and sit down and talk with an entrepreneur there and talk about what they've established and created, and just give people information that you can't always find and make it interesting at the same time, because we're going to have fun. Yeah,
I really like that. I am genuinely very excited for this. I also feel like I'm the target audience for this show. So I'm like, ooh, you're going to talk to, ooh. But that sounds so exciting. And also, you're also working on the album Trenches. I, of course, want to get to that as well. You talked a little bit about it, you know, at the beginning, but where did the name come from, and how do you feel like this album fits along with the rest of your amazing catalog?
Well, Trenches, like I was saying earlier, it does kind of embody two of my records in particular, Miss Thing and After the Storm. It's like if you infuse the two, that's what Trenches feels like to me. But Trenches is something that we were sitting in the studio, Pharrell, Chad, Aunt Clemens, Melinda, myself, all of us were in the studio and we were working. And Pharrell was asking me about where I was from, and I was telling him about the South Side, which we ended up doing a record called South Side, and we were talking about it. And I told him, I said, the difference in myself and most artists is that I really still be in the trenches. Sometimes I got to go where my people are, period. And my brothers are there, and my friends are there. And I never felt like what I do should separate me from that totally. You know, of course you live and you grow and you mature, but the trenches are exactly what made Monica, the young girl that you all met 25 years ago, exactly who she was. Yeah. That confidence, that self-assured, that fearlessness, that don't try me. Everything the slogan is that, you know? And so he was like, wait, trenches. You know, Pharrell is he's so amazing. He and Chad are two really special, magical, talented individuals.
Yes.
And he got stuck on me saying, you said, I really be in the trenches. Something there. And so we ended up naming the title track Trenches, and then we named the album Trenches, because I definitely was in the midst of them. Trenches is not just a monetary thing. You know, some people think when you're in the trenches, that's when you don't have any money. Trenches can be here. Mm-hmm. Trenches can be here. When you're going through it, that's when you're in the trenches. And I was definitely in it, right in the midst of it when I went to work with Pharrell. So that is where it came from.
I love that story. That's a great story. And also in you talking about that, I feel like that's very true, because you can see it in the way that you talk about all of these different topics that you want to cover, and in the way that you talk about connecting with the community, because you can see the disconnect between some people and regular people when they try to kind of preach to people or kind of talk down to people. But the topics that you talk about discussing and the ways that you try to reach people is very much meeting people at their level, you know, and it's very relatable and what people want to hear, but also what they need to hear. So yeah, I'm assuming the album is the same. So I'm looking forward to hearing it too.
Very much so. You know, I believe that when you learn something or you add something to your bank of knowledge, you're supposed to share it, but you're also supposed to be able to just kind of discern when and how. And one thing you can't do, I think a lot of people make the mistake of speaking to others with judgment. That is one of the key issues that I think prevents people from learning from others, because when you're speaking in judgment, it's almost like you're talking down, and none of us sit high enough to look low. So for me, when I'm talking to somebody, I'm telling you from either an experience or something that happened directly to me so that you can avoid it. And that's me caring enough that you not be put in a predicament that maybe I've already been in before, or something I've already experienced before. And I think that's really key. And I think that's where the whole auntie nickname thing came from for me, because I'm not looking to intervene or tap shoulders and just be lending out, you know, what my opinion is. But if somebody comes to me, it's a labor of love to share anything that you've learned, especially if it's something that can make their journey easier, whether it's as a woman, whether it's as an entrepreneur, whether it's as an artist. That just comes second nature to me. And I think I definitely get that from my mom. My stepdad's a Methodist minister. We were always visiting with the sick and shut in and going house to house. And it was really different. It wasn't that, you know, television pastoring. It was, we were really around people and in our communities and caroling to the older people that once they couldn't get out anymore, or, you know, it's a hands-on approach that is a labor of love, and it should be done with love, not with judgment. So that is definitely when I share what I always hope I share with.
Yeah, I really like that. How do you, and in talking about things that you've learned and sharing things that you've learned, what do you feel like you've learned in working on all of these different projects over the last year?
Don't procrastinate. Procrastination is something that myself and even my oldest son, we both always say, why didn't I just do what I thought I wanted to do at that moment? I've been procrastinating on my kids' clothing line for years because music will come up, then something else will come up. Then I have a son in sports, and I have a son in music, and I have a daughter in gymnastics, and I always have a reason. But I'm learning not to procrastinate, just move on things. I mean, he doesn't place these things within you and these great ideas and these opportunities before you for you to ignore. And I wasn't doing it intentionally, just had so many things happening at once. My mommy and me pajama line, procrastination, is the only reason that you don't see it right now. But these are the things that I'm still working on as we move into Mo Talk, move into Infamy, move into Trenches. These are the things that I'm refocusing and really getting back in order.
Yeah. That's a really good lesson. I feel like I needed to hear that. But, you weren't procrastinating in that you have all of these different projects coming out. So where did you get especially given everything that happened in the last year, for a lot of people, it was really hard to buckle down and get just one thing done, let alone 3, 4, 5 other things done. So what was it like for you to buckle down and do that? Even though you talk about don't procrastinate, you got a lot done and you have a lot coming out. So where did you kind of find that time and that drive, and what was that mindset looking like for you?
Looking at my kids always motivate me to do more. I would hate for them to be, you don't want to be out here creating lazy adults, afraid adults, fearful adults. I know that it is important for me to give them the tools to survive, the tools to stay ahead, the tools to engage with other people, the tools to also say when you need to disengage from other people. So I just always feel like I need to be an example. And if I get too complacent, I can't be what I'm telling them they should be. And so I try to just lead by example. That's the one thing that will keep me motivated when I just don't feel like it. That's the one thing that'll push me further when I just don't feel like it. I know kids don't do what you say, they do what they see.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. And what, in everything that you've worked on, do you have a favorite project of all of these?
I think my first will always be my favorite. I think Miss Thing will always be my favorite because there were no time limits. We worked until it felt right. There were no expectations. People had never heard of me. I think that was one of the truest forms of myself because I didn't think about it. I did it. If I thought it, I said it. And of course, that could be a little bit shocking when you're as young as I was, but I think that it was a good characteristic that helped me to navigate and go through a lot without losing myself, if that makes sense. Yeah. And so that will always be, that Miss Thing will always be my baby. It'll always be, me unapologetically being me, doing what it is I love. And I definitely had no clue who the people were that I was working with, it was a good thing.
Yeah.
I wasn't putting airs. I would go in Clive's office and I would start singing and they would say, well, here's the stage. And I would walk the whole room and sing and work the entire room because that's just who I am.
Yeah.
And, so it was good that I didn't have all these stats and who this person is and what executive this is. I was there for the music and I'm back to that place.
Exactly. Very organic. And then I kind of wanted to, in wrapping it up, could you talk a little bit more about the similarities between that and Trenches? Because at the beginning you did talk about how you reached back to that Miss Thing era and brought that to this new album.
Yes, it's so easy. This is an independent album. Okay. So that means the staff that's around, it's the people that I choose. It's the people that my first cousin chooses, who has managed me the whole time. It's all done our way on our terms. And that is what most resonates with Miss Thing because I don't know who those folks were. I just was like, listen, play me the song. Oh, no, that's not it. I wouldn't say that. They give me a song and the song may say, I'm dying without you. Woo. That's not how we living around here. Whatever it was, whatever the feeling was, it's back because I'm doing it on my own. It is more difficult because I have to fund everything. Every time I move, get dressed, get my hair, get my makeup, get a picture. It doesn't matter. I have to fund it. That part is not as easy, but it is gratifying to know that after 25 years, people are even giving me an opportunity to bring them new music and to bring them a part of me and to talk about my life and to still sing for them. And I mean, it's no joke. When it's time to shoot a video, there's no budget cut. You got to tap into the savings. So it's a whole different world, but it is a world where I'm in control, and controlling your own destiny is so important.
Yeah, I can imagine. And it feels like I'm excited to hear this album, but it also is amazing to see how many other things that you are controlling in terms of all of these different projects that you're working on. And they all feel very organic and heartfelt and like they came from you. And so what are when can you, for the people that are watching at home, can you let them know when they can expect each of these projects? And I know the show comes out on Monday, but for anyone who's just tuning in, when can they expect everything coming from you?
Infamy. Our crime series about 8 very important and special people whose lives were taken in such unfair manners will air Monday night, this Monday at 10 p.m. on VH1. My album and Mo Talk both will come this summer. As soon as I start airing the episodes and sharing with you guys, I'm going to start releasing the music. And you can find all of the information needed if you follow me at Monica Denise on all platforms.
Awesome. And when is Mo Talk coming?
You know what? We are toying with the dates, but we're not far from it. Let me be real clear. We're not far from it at all. The sets have been built. The staff is in place. Everyone is ready. So it'll be before the summer is gone.
Ooh, yay. Ooh, this is going to be a fun summer then. This is going to be a good summer. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm definitely looking forward to hearing that. And thank you so, so much for coming on and doing this. Before you leave, I just wanted to ask, if there's one message that you could give people watching and just fans of yours, what would that be? Because you dropped so many gems. I just wanted to know if there was anything else that you would love to leave us with.
Yes. You know what, though? I have different things that hit my spirit at different times, but something that I have been feeling all day today is it's okay. A lot of times we don't feel like it's okay to take time for ourselves, to say we don't want to do something, to say we don't want to participate in something. We feel like based on who it is, it makes it mandatory. It's okay. It's okay to say no. And your no is a good enough answer. It doesn't have to come with an explanation. Today, somebody asked me something and I was like, no, I really, no.
Yeah. Yeah. No, period.
You have to just remind yourself, whatever it is that you need to do for you, it's not, I used to look at that as being selfish, but if you cannot take care of yourself and you're not in good health, mentally, physically, or any other way, how can you take care of the other people that you love? So those outside of my children, I realize I don't owe an explanation if I've given a no, and that's okay. So that's been on my mind today because I caught myself almost explaining something that didn't really need explaining. No.
I really like that. That's a great message. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for coming on the stream. It has been so wonderful talking to you, and I'm really looking forward to talking to you.
It really was to you.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Bye. Oh, that was such a wonderful conversation. Chat, thank you so much for watching. We're going to go to a quick ad break.